The Golden Valley Massacre. Justice delayed, but not denied. In the desolate landscape of Mohave County, Arizona, a brutal crime shattered the peace in 1996. 3 lives were extinguished in a senseless act of violence, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a community scarred by fear. Now, decades later, one of the perpetrators has finally faced justice. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. The victims, Roland Wear, Leta Kagen, and Robert Delahunt, were residents of Golden Valley, a remote area known for its rugged beauty and close-knit community. Their lives intersected with Frank Anderson and Kimberly Lane, 2 hitchhikers seeking a temporary respite from the road. Leta Kagen, known for her generosity, offered Anderson and Lane a place to stay. This act of kindness would tragically seal her fate and the fate of her companions. Little did they know, a sinister plot was brewing, fueled by greed and a thirst for violence. The plan, hatched by Anderson, Robert Poison, and Lane, centered around robbing Roland Wear. But the robbery quickly spiraled into a horrific massacre, leaving no one alive to tell the tale. The sequence of events is chilling in its brutality. Robert Delahunt was the first to fall victim. Anderson, in a moment of unspeakable violence, slashed Delahunt's throat. Poison then delivered the killing blow, crushing Delahunt's skull with a rock. The scene was set for the carnage that would follow. Leta Kagen, awakened by the commotion, was callously shot in the head by Poison. Anderson, acting as an accomplice, held a lantern, illuminating the scene of the crime. His role, though seemingly passive, was crucial to the execution of the murders. Roland Wear, the intended target of the robbery, was roused from his sleep. He was met with a hail of gunfire and then bludgeoned to death with a cinder block by Poison. Anderson, again, assisted in the brutal act, solidifying his role as a willing participant in the triple homicide. Frank Anderson's trial was a battleground of conflicting narratives. His defense team attempted to paint him as a coerced bystander, a victim of circumstance forced to participate in Poison's violent rampage. They argued that Poison was the driving force behind the killings, a homicidal, maniacal man who controlled Anderson through fear. The prosecution, however, presented a compelling case that Anderson was a willing participant in the murders. They argued that he was guilty as an accomplice, actively assisting in the planning and execution of the crimes. The jury, after deliberating for only 3 hours, sided with the prosecution. Anderson was convicted of armed robbery, conspiracy to commit murder, and 3 counts of first-degree murder. The verdict marked the end of a long and arduous journey for the victims' families, who had waited decades for justice to be served. Frank Anderson now faces a potential death sentence or life imprisonment without parole. The severity of the crimes and the callousness with which they were committed weigh heavily on the scales of justice. However, under Arizona law, his convictions are subject to automatic appeal. The appeals process could prolong the legal proceedings for years, potentially reopening old wounds and forcing the victims' families to relive the horrors of the past. The final outcome remains uncertain, but the conviction represents a significant victory for the pursuit of justice. Anderson is scheduled to be sentenced March 18th. While Anderson has been brought to justice, the cases of his accomplices remain unresolved. Robert Poison is awaiting trial and could face the death penalty for his role in the murders. Kimberly Lane, who was a juvenile at the time of the crime, is also awaiting trial as an adult. Due to her age at the time of the crime, Lane cannot be executed. However, she still faces the possibility of life imprisonment. Poison is scheduled to go on trial March 2nd. The outcome of their trials will further shape the narrative of this tragic case. The trial of Frank Anderson provided a glimpse into the dark and twisted events that unfolded in Golden Valley. The jury's swift verdict underscored the strength of the prosecution's case and the overwhelming evidence of Anderson's guilt. Throughout the trial, Anderson remained stoic, showing no emotion as the verdict was read. Prosecutors painted a picture of a man who abandoned his wife, ran away with a teenage girl, and then embarked on a murderous spree with Robert Poison. The motive for the killings, according to the prosecution, was simple greed. The trio sought to steal Roland Wear's pickup truck, a seemingly insignificant object that ultimately cost 3 people their lives. The victims, who had offered Anderson and his companions kindness, were repaid with unimaginable violence. The victims were discovered in Kagen's trailer in Golden Valley. Delahunt was found brutally beaten, his throat slashed. Chief Deputy Mohave County Attorney argued persuasively that Anderson was an accomplice, actively participating in the murders. Anderson himself admitted to slashing Delahunt's throat during police interviews. He claimed he was responding to Lane's screams, but his actions spoke volumes about his willingness to participate in the violence. He helped hold down Delahunt as Poison used a rock to drive a knife into his head. The prosecution alleged that Lane enticed Delahunt into a kissing session to facilitate the attack. This detail, though disturbing, highlighted the calculated nature of the crime and the level of planning involved. The defense countered by claiming that Anderson was terrified of Poison and acted under duress. They argued that he complied with Poison's orders out of fear for his own life. He complied with orders to hold the lantern and hand Poison the cinder block. The relationship between Anderson and Lane was also scrutinized during the trial. They met at the Lancaster mobile home park he managed and began a romantic relationship. Anderson even convinced Lane that he had mafia ties, further illustrating his manipulative nature. After the killings, the trio drove to Illinois and split up. Anderson was eventually arrested while driving Wear's pickup truck. Lane and Poison were apprehended at a homeless shelter. The stolen truck served as a crucial piece of evidence linking Anderson to the crime. Adding another layer of complexity to the case, Lane gave birth to a child she believes was fathered by Anderson. The baby was given to Lane's mother and stepfather in Chino Valley, Arizona. This detail underscores the far-reaching consequences of the crime and the lives it touched. The prosecutor expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the trial, stating that he felt a sense of obligation to the victims and their families. The conviction of Frank Anderson represents a measure of closure for those who have suffered for so long. The Golden Valley Massacre remains a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human depravity. The senseless murders of Roland Wear, Leta Kagen, and Robert Delahunt left an indelible scar on the community and a legacy of loss that will never be forgotten. The conviction of Frank Anderson, though decades overdue, represents a significant step towards justice. It serves as a testament to the unwavering dedication of law enforcement and the enduring power of the legal system to hold perpetrators accountable for their crimes. The cases of Robert Poison and Kimberly Lane remain open, and the pursuit of justice continues. The victims' families deserve to see all those responsible for their loved ones' deaths brought to justice. The Golden Valley Massacre is a tragedy that should never be forgotten, and the pursuit of justice must continue until all those responsible are held accountable. If you found this video informative and compelling, please like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime investigations. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the case and what you think the sentences should be for Anderson, Poison, and Lane. Finally, consider supporting our work by donating to our Patreon page, where you can access exclusive content and help us continue to bring you the stories that matter.